Hello everyone, welcome back. Today on the Brian of All Trades, I'm going to show you how I took a $6 single cylinder motor and turned it into a new lamp for my workbench downstairs. So let's get started. I'll start off by saying this motor was still pretty much in use. It had a lot of oil. I'll show you some pictures. So I apologize these pictures weren't better when I took the video a couple of years ago. But you can see the outside of it is rather greasy. There's the fuel tank on top that I took off and didn't use. Wiped everything down, started taking it apart. Take lots of pictures of your project before you go ahead and start taking things apart. Might be easier to put back together. There's a lot of gears I cleaned off, saved in the plastic bag I'll show you later. That needed to be all washed off and soaked in degreaser and detergents like that. So there's a lot of work, but once you started tearing into it and took more and more apart, it kind of became more fun because you could kind of see the vision at the end on what it was going to be. So again, a lot of work went into it, but I thought it turned out pretty good. Talk you through what it looked like. But what I ended up doing was taking it all apart, cleaning it up, taking all of the extra parts off that I really didn't want because I knew I was going to use it for a lamp anyhow. Sandblasted it. You don't have to sandblast it, but if you can, that would be great. I think a sandblaster you can hook up to your air compressor costs around maybe $35. Not a big deal. And then all these other parts on here, some are new, like this fitting right over here, that's new. But everything else is kind of cleaned up. The copper is new just so it would give it a new shine. And I had some different ideas for it. The more I played around with it, the more it changed as far as the idea. The spark plug is obviously new on top. Some of these bolts are new. This was a different idea I had that could control the light in there. Didn't exactly work out, so I just left it as is anyway. But let me turn this around and I'll show you. Here is where I had access to go ahead and put the lamp inside. So I'll take that apart and we can see how I put it together. So here's the inside of the motor that I had, and up in this area is where the piston was, and then down here there's just a lot of other things. There was a shaft that came through, and then it came through here, so I didn't have to do any extra drilling or anything like that. I did put some plexiglass on both sides just to protect it from dust and any other debris that came in, and I also put these in there as well just to kind of raise up the light so you could see it coming through the glass right there. So this, it starts out basically, I just bought this at a home improvement store. It is controlled by this. So you do have, so you do have a control on the outside, easy access. Again, here's a standard lamp cord, 6 feet, switch on the outside. You can buy these in multiple packs and it works out great for a lot of projects. To turn that on and off. And I did have other ideas for it, but basically what I ended up doing was I just brought that in and hooked it up to, I had to buy these fittings separate, the little socket. You can see that the socket is an E12, so you want to make sure that your light is also an E12, so everything works out great. And then I bought the little flame lights separate. And the nice thing is when you buy this stuff, when you're doing lamps and fun things like that, you certainly can, you just buy like a box of them and then you have extras. And I don't even know, I forget what this cost, if it was like $8 or $10 or something like that. It wasn't very much, but you have extras for other projects, so you're really not out a whole lot of money. A lamp wire that I used was 18.2. I just bought 25 feet. This I probably bought at a home improvement store. This stuff I ordered online. Just make sure that when you buy the sockets, like for this and for that, that they match up. Sometimes it's pretty easy to get like a larger socket that doesn't fit the light bulb or vice versa, so you want to be careful with that. One technical component that I wanted to mention too that would help along is when you get your light socket that looks like this, it's going to come with 2 strands, 2 different wires. One's going to be black, one's going to be white. For me, it doesn't make a difference simply because what I'm going to do, if you want to extend, and that's where this wire came in, and I actually did not use it on the project because I didn't have to, but your lamp wire that I was pointing at before with the on and off switch is still going to have 2 wires. All you have to do is connect one wire to one of those, and then the other wire to the other one. And then you can simply put a piece of shrink seal over it, and then you take your lighter and melt it on, and basically you're done. It doesn't matter if which one, like the black or the white, goes to which side. That doesn't matter. So go ahead, hook it up. And sometimes you have to put 3 of these on if you want to do a pigtail, like in that demonstration I showed you for that rocket that I made, because sometimes those were pigtailing off, and then they would all come together and hook up to the on-off switch for the lamp. So here we have it where I hooked the white to the gray, and then also the black to the gray. And then I put a piece of that shrink wrap over it. And really what you're going to do after this is take a Bic lighter and you just hold it underneath like that. And obviously this is too long of one, but and then it just shrinks on like that. Now you're not going to be too rough with it, obviously, but that'll be enough to hold it on after you twisted it together and stuff too. That's all I did for my lamp. And again, I went through that smaller hole. You're not pulling on the cable or cord, so that should be just fine for home use and stuff like that. And you saw how dirty this was, how much oil there was, a lot of cleaning. The best thing to do for cleaning was, again, to let it soak for about 3 days, and then you can start the cleaning process. And the more I cleaned, the more I actually really liked what I saw. I knew some of the parts that I wanted were new. Some of these screws that I used, I just cleaned up. They're original screws, or bolts, excuse me. Other ones on top were newer. And that's because either they were really bad or I just wanted something quite a bit more shiny. And other things that I was gonna add to that. So that's, before I jump around here, that's really about it. I did have other ideas to kind of go up through here, feed it through here, and actually come out here with more lights. But after tinkering around with it for as much as I did and having fun with it, I just decided to kind of end it right there. Again, sandblasted it, and you can simply take this and buy spray paint is really what I ended up doing with it. Trying to find a spray paint that was the color I wanted. I kind of went through a couple of different renditions. I still wanted it to look vintage is what I was looking for. And I know they have a hammered spray paint out there that I've used before, but they kind of discontinued some of the colors, which was unfortunate. But I tend to use this type of spray paint on a lot of my projects. It's the 2X Rust-Oleum, and it has paint and primer all in one. And this particular one is a satin, and it is a moss green that I used on this motor. Anyways, had a lot of fun with this project. And again, I spent $6. Again, I was on an online auction nearby, ended up buying it and took it apart. So I will show you now some other projects that I have done as well. And here is an outside lamp that I bought at another auction for literally, it was like $6 as well. This particular one, I just sanded it down, replaced a couple components inside as I showed you how to do on here, cleaned off the glass, painted it a nice red, and that paint has stayed on. The inside is a flickering bulb that I put in there just to simulate like a flame and stuff, as you can see. So this one I decided to keep for kind of Christmas decoration, and it turned out great. Here is the bulb that I had. You can find these at your local hardware store as well. Now this one is a rocket lamp that I built. Again, this one was completely from scratch, and then I painted it with that hammered black paint as well. This one does not flicker, although I could put flickering bulbs in there, but it's those vintage bulbs as well. Everything I made or I bought at a hardware store. Some items that I used to help clean the lamp were simply various wire brushes to kind of scrape some of that paint off, as well as the oil inside. Additionally, I kept all the parts. Here's like the old spark plug. You can see why I replaced that, but here you have some nice gears, and then you got the pistons still. And then everything I did clean up, but I decided not to use. And this is where taking a lot of pictures works out, because I could go back and recreate what was inside there and actually just make a standalone item if I wanted to do something with that later. back in the lamp because it would have been simply in the way of where the light was going to be. And I did have other ideas for some of this stuff. So it's kind of nice just to, again, get a tote, keep projects set aside, label it, and you might use it for another project, because I did have other ideas for kind of a freestanding lamp using some of that stuff as well. Well, I really hope you enjoyed watching my video. I enjoyed making the lamp and sharing with you some tips and techniques on how to do it. And again, you can find some great bargains on auctions, and to go ahead and buy some of those lamp materials is relatively inexpensive. And I think you can have a lot of fun and restore a lot of things and kind of decorate your house or your shop with those, unless you want to go around and sell them. But thanks again for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later.